Hey everyone, Brandon from Caesar's Freedomstead here. Today we're out doing the garden again today, filling up the rows, and a couple of things wanted to show you guys. So once you've planted a garden in the past, you may get some volunteers there, and so you got some free plant starts already that you could use right away, and that's basically what we're doing today. Marina and Lori are planting the stuff that we actually did from seed. So over here is the squash, butternut squash, zucchini, and things like that. And so that right there is what we planted, what they're doing inside that row. And if you see over here, those are the ones we planted the first time I showed you guys the video. So, but they're doing that. So, but all around the garden here, we found just volunteers, volunteer tomatillos, volunteer quite a few things. So, but I'm going to go ahead and start the tomatoes today. So I'm actually going to make two rows. One's going to be the tomatoes that we planted inside the greenhouse, but the other one is going to be our volunteer tomatoes that we found. If you see these little cups right here, went around the garden and dug around them and just put them in the cups, so I have them right away when I plant them in the ground. And so I'm just going to make a row out of those. Didn't have to plant those. They came up by themselves. So that saved us a whole lot of time, and they're about 10 times the size of the ones we actually have in the greenhouse from seed. And these actually survived during the 28-degree nights. They came by and killed a lot of stuff. So these are really strong. So I don't think these things are going to die. Even when we put them in the ground, they should be good to go for the rest of the summer. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to get all those into the ground, but in an orderly way, not just sporadically throughout the garden. So we're going to go ahead and do that. All right. So see these right here? These are some of the tomatoes that I found in the ground. Really nice. They're about 3 inches tall. So the ones I got in the greenhouse are like 1 inch. So about three times the size. But there's a lot of big ones in here. Obviously I'm going to clean up this dirt and everything, but they're looking really good. Not exactly sure which ones these are. I know they're probably a variety because we planted a variety last year. But these are all volunteers. And there's a lot of volunteers all throughout the garden, but I'm just gonna get enough to fill the row, and you know, the rest will just, if they want to grow where they're at, that's fine, but if they're in the way of a row, then they're going. Right here, some volunteer tomatillos, because we planted a lot of tomatillos last year. A lot of volunteer tomatillos around here. These are volunteer tomatillos. There's another volunteer tomatillo. So I'm going to dig these up as well and put them in little containers, and then we're going to put them in an orderly fashion in the garden as well. So a lot of volunteers in here, kind of sporadically. Let me see if I could find you some other volunteers here. So here's a whole patch of tomatoes. Volunteer tomato, 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 a bunch of volunteer tomatoes, a whole bunch of them. And so there's a whole patch right there. Those are ones that didn't even have to grow, or, you know, if you plant every year, those are seeds you didn't have to plant. Just get them out of the ground. You can leave them there if you want, but it's gonna be hard to get them, you know, to grow up with nothing around them unless you put mulch around them and stuff. But you can just take those out and put them in your garden in a row. So that's that. Here's a little miniature one, but there's all kinds around here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get everything in a row, and I'll show you how it is when we're done. All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and do the row, and then we're gonna actually put some butternut squash next. We found a bunch of butternut squash that are actually really grown. So we're gonna go ahead and put the butternut squash in, and then I'm gonna do the tomatoes. So we're gonna go ahead and get started here. All right, so went ahead and got our garden row done. You gotta have popsicles when you're out gardening. So I went ahead and got this row done right here. And we're gonna go ahead and put the butternut squash in there. And so it only took me like 10 minutes to do that whole row. Let me go ahead and turn around and show you. So went ahead and just did the row with the cultivator there. Way down just like these ones. Just gotta pat it up and put some wood ash inside of there. And then we'll go ahead and start planting. I make it a little bit wet before that, before we get anything in the ground as well. So, but yeah, it took me about 10 minutes to get that done. All right. Next, what I do is I get all these little pieces of grass out of there, and I go ahead and put it all together. All right. So here's a row completed, all packed and ready to go. It's got some grass in there, and that's fine, it'll die off. Just become organic material. But that's the row right there. And we're already starting to get in the butternut squash here. And if you see the little bit of whitish black stuff, again, that's the ash that we put in there. Putting it in all the rows this year. Gonna help everything grow like crazy. And that's this row. All right, well, we went ahead and we finished up 2 rows here today. We just got done 2 rows because we got to go in a few minutes here, have some lunch, get ready to get back to church. But right here was the tomatoes. So this was all the tomatoes that we found that grew in the ground. Just volunteered. We didn't plant them. We didn't plant them from seed, anything like that. They're just volunteers from last year. And we were able to create an entire row just of the volunteer tomatoes. And as you saw when I showed you, they're like 3 inches tall, much bigger than what we got growing in the greenhouse right now from seed. And these survived the cold. So they're really strong. I don't think they're going to give up very easily. So hopefully they survive after the transplant. So if they survive the transplant, they should be good to go. So that's what we did today. Definitely, if you planted a garden last year, before you do anything with your garden, go out there and check around, because you'll probably have a lot of volunteers, a lot of free stuff that's going to save you time from planting. And you may not be planting a garden this big, so what you find volunteering in your garden, you could probably just grow that, throw it in a pot or something like that. But since ours is so huge, we were able to just create one entire row. And literally, guys, there is probably another row worth of tomatoes in the grass here that we could make again. But we're gonna save a couple rows for the ones that we planted, that we know what they are. These ones we don't exactly know what they are. I'm pretty sure, you know, half of them are probably the cherry tomato, and a few of them looked like the homestead tomato. But we'll see. It's hard to tell when they're this small. Some of them have you know, a certain structure you could tell. But other than that, definitely save yourself some time. All right, well, thank you guys so much. I hope this was really helpful. Definitely look around for volunteers in your garden and see what you could do with that. It'll save you a lot of time, maybe a little bit of money there too. But that's what we did for this year, made a whole entire row. So thank you so much. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe, like, and I'll bring you lots more videos in the future. All right, thank you so much. Bye-bye.